Hey everybody, Anthony Dodge, Mile Train Outsider, American Outsider here with a request video for my friend Mark Bascom, Model Railway Fantasia, who asked me to do a quick video explaining getting started in 3D printing because it seems overwhelming to him, and I want to show him that if I understand this, he definitely can. There are three parts to 3D printing: design, slicing, printing. So let's talk about design. That's the hardest part, and the part even I don't understand. However, there are two ways you can do design. You can, ta-da, go to a website like Tinkercad. Yes, there are dozens more. Just Google CAD sites, CAD apps. Tinkercad is a free site, although they also have a paid version. And there are many, many, many 3D sites that offer multiple levels of free to advanced pay, very expensive. Like the one that Sam now uses, their highest level is $200 a month. Sam at Sam's Train, $200 a month. I don't know if he's using that level or not. Even I could probably afford $200 a month if I decided I don't want a second car. But be that as it may. So here's Tinkercad, and I will enlarge it real quick. And so it's Tinkercad, and it's done by a company. It's provided to you by a company called Autodesk. And the thing with Tinkercad is that it gives you a bunch of 3D shapes, and you can construct and build. Those little 4 bits up there, those are little designs of mine, very simplistic. Because I was trying to design a couple of inserts for some models I had, as well as some very simplistic buildings that you see in the town of Delmenhorst. So they're not, but I have friends that are using Tinkercad and making really amazing designs. So you can, once you learn it, but go on it and fiddle. You don't have to have a 3D printer. You can fiddle around, create design, say, well, I want to design a basic square building or whatever, and keep adding and building. Yes, it's fiddly at first, but that's how you learn. All right, if you don't want to design yourself and you're hoping somebody else has done the hard work for you, go to Thingiverse. Thingiverse is an online site that offers free 3D designs. All right, it's Thingiverse, and it's provided by a company called Ultimaker, who make 3D printers themselves, but they have nothing to do with the designs on this page. They just provide it, and you can create designs and upload it to Ultimaker. And if you look over here, you'll see it says download all files. Like it if you think you like this and want to come back to it sometime. Watch, remix, copy link, and then there's a tip designer. And if you take their design and print it, you should tip them. But what you do is go there and download. You find a building you like by searching HO scale restaurant, HO scale pub, HO scale gas station. You can be as specific or as vague as you want. N scale, because it's all scales. It's not just HO. All right. So you can either create your own design or download a design. But once, in either case, you download it, you even from Tinkercad, once you design it, you'll download it. If you have an onboard program on your computer for 3D design, then obviously you saved it somewhere. But for simplicity's sake, almost everything you save will be an STL file. Standard Tessellation Language, STL file. Almost everything you get from Tinkercad, design on Tinkercad. Tinkercad gives you the option of, I think, 3 or 4 different files you want to save. I think almost everything you get off of Thingiverse is STL files. And on Thingiverse, sometimes it'll say there's only 1 file available, which means it's going to be a full print. If you see a building like that and it says there are 6 files, that means that they've probably have a full print, but then also, do you just want to print the front wall? Do you want to print the side walls? You can print it separately and put it together as you want, or the interior wall separately. But I believe like the one I'm showing you there is a simple single file construction. All right, but it'll be an STL file, and you will save it somewhere on your computer. For example, if I pull up this window, and bring this all the way up to the front and enlarge it, you will see that I have a place up in the upper left that says 3D print files, okay? That's where I save anything I download. So now it just standard goes there. Now, if I open that, and I'll have to open it for a second, boom, I open my 3D print files, you should be seeing that the page changed. And there are two types of, well, there's folders here, but there's two types of files listed here. There are things that are blue with a white C, kind of awkward hexagons. And then there are the things that look like a white sheet of paper with tab. Don't ignore the PDF file. That's just an instruction manual for one of my old printers. All right. The blue files for me are my STL files. Now, don't go looking for that until the next step. But basically, why do I always go the wrong way there? But there are two types of files. There's the design file, which is STL, and then there's the print file, which is called G-code, .gcode, G-code. Now, how do you go from design to print? That's step 2, the slicer. Slicers, that is an app. Bam. I will now bring this one up. There are many different apps out there, and most 3D printers come with either software for a slicer, their own slicer, or links to, they'll tell you to go to some site and get theirs. But one of the best is this one. It is called Ultimaker Cura. Now, Ultimaker makes their own 3D printers. But Ultimaker Cura is a very, it's a free slicer program. And all Slicer does is it takes your design codes, STL or whatever other ones, and turns it to your print code, which is usually G code. Now, again, high-end guys have even different codes from G code, but all the basic home design and home printers use G code. All right. So you're just, in the end, you need a slicer to go from your STL design files to your print files, because your design files just say, this is the building with this height, width, length, window here, whatever, okay? Your G code is a file that says, print this at this temperature on this machine at this length and this speed using this much PLA at this width and blah, 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 blah. Okay? And that's the difference. Because just because something is 3D designed doesn't mean it's meant to be printed. So you have to have a second style of file that takes the design and makes it print. And that thing is called the slicer. Now, again, you can experiment with this without ever buying a 3D printer. So go to Tinkercad Thingiverse and pick a couple of files you like or design a couple of things you like. Okay? Then you come to your slicer. Now, because I have a Mingda Magician Pro, you can see up here in light blue, Mingda Magician Pro. That is my preset printer. But you can go in and add any printer. And the reason I like the Ultimaker Cura is more than any other free slicer software, it has the biggest database of other companies' slicers in it. Now, somebody, again, if I weren't disabling comments, would say, oh, wait, no, this slicer's better and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but the idea is find a slicer. I use Ultimaker Cura, and it doesn't steer you wrong. And it has all the printers I've ever seen in it, including both the one I used to use and the one I use. But when I started, I was using the Creality slicer, which is a good one. It just didn't have as big a database as the Ultimaker Cura. All right, so here is where it gets easy or hard. To me, I think the design process is the hardest. But yeah, just if you don't have a 3D printer, just pick one, like my Mingda Magician Pro, or go into the database and like, well, I'm thinking of getting an Ender 3. Look for Ender 3 Pro. That's the model you're going to get. Pop it up there, because every design is going to be redesigned to fit the bed of the 3D printer you're going to use. But yeah, as soon as I click on this, it will take me to my files. Now, you can't see it coming up, but it took me to this page right here. Okay? And so I'm going to bring this Windows Capture back up right now. It takes me to this page. And if you look down on this page, you can see those little blue with the white C, C for Cura, Ultimaker Cura. Those are all my STL files. So you can see right here, Standard Tessellation Language, STL file. That's the design file. Now what I'm going to do is pick one of these. So I'm going to pick this one, the 3-door building. That's just the name I gave it. And if you look right above it, you'll see it says 3-door building G code. Well, I'll explain that in just a second. So I click on 3-door. And as soon as I click on it, did you see it? It immediately appears on my 3D printing screen on my slicer program. And there it is, all set up. Now, sometimes, depending on the design, you may get warnings that pop up here that says this has issues that may create faults in design. Sometimes you'll just see little red areas like that and they'll say, we have a question about this. But apparently it's not a big enough question because they're not sending up a warning. They're just saying these are areas that they might have to adjust during the print. If it's a major issue that they can't print, it'll come up with a sign that says, do you want us to fix this? So even though you can see inside, it looks like there's little red areas and blue areas, really, it's all good to go. This one is fine. And you can spin it around and see what it's going to look like. And it is presetted onto the bed. All right. Now, this is still an STL file. So what you're going to do is you're going to go down here and click slice. Or whatever thing you use, you're going to click slice. And I will shrink this for a second. And move this back over. And the minute you click slice, it will take some time. It might take a minute. It might take 5 to 8 minutes. It's going to take this 3D design and it's going to take all the recommended settings, or it's going to use preset settings. Like if you took a Tinkercad design and doing it, it's going to take the standard recommended settings for your printer and PLA, because it will ask you, what, are you doing PLA? What are you using? Okay. So anyhow, and it will create the G code. Once you click slice, and I got to use this screen now, you'll see it. Here's the STL code. See, if I hover over it, well, I don't know if that comes up on your screen, but that's the STL code. But now here it is, 3-door building G code. And that's your print file. So all you would do is take that G code file. You would take that G code file and put it on a memory stick and put it on your printer. SD disk, micro disk, whatever data transfer handheld you have, and stick it on your 3D printer. Now I used my phone and I filmed where you would go on my Mingda, but every computer or every 3D printer is a little different. Okay, so here is my 3D printer in my self-made environment casing. And you bring your little stick, which has your G code file on it, and you'll plug it in somewhere. Somewhere it'll show you where to plug it in. So like right there, you can see I have an SD disk here, and I have a USB port there. So if I turn it on, every printer is different, but you turn it on, and you would click print, and when you click print, depending on which printer you have, it'll ask for the source. Okay, I have a USD card, that's the only thing attached. And then boom, any G code you have on that is in there. So there's 3-door building and farmhouse build. So the 3-door building, I might click on that. And then I'm not going to confirm it because I don't want to start the process. But then the only thing you'll do is, once it starts, and let me get out of this. Once it starts, you will want to adjust the temperatures based on it. Now, normally any code will have suggested temperatures, but usually you want to adjust it. For example, many people say, if you're using standard PLA, you don't need a heated bed. You should heat the bed. And 50 to 60 Celsius is probably the best range for standard PLA. And then heating because you have two different heat sources. The bed can be heated, and then your filament from the extruder will be heated. And that you want somewhere between 180 and 220.
The problem is you have to fiddle around with it and decide. I found 200 to 205 is the best for me. But that's it. And the nice thing about this printer is it's self-leveling, although you should readjust it and have it self-level again after every 2-3 prints. It takes 5 minutes to do it. Others you have to adjust manually, and that's not fun.
But that is the basics of 3D printing. Get a file, which will probably be STL code. You need a slicer to convert it to print, which is G code. Take the G code and stick it in your printer on some sort of memory transfer file. Now, every 3D printer has some pre-installed on it, and they'll all be G codes. G code is the 3D print. Okay, that is it. That's the best I can do in the shortest amount of time, unless I were to just go get an STL code, get a slicer, make it a G code, take G code, put it in printer. But walking you through the steps takes 15-20 minutes. So there it is, Mark. I hope this helps you, because every printer is a little different in how you set it up, but I'll show you mine and a little bit of my old one. Okay, I hope this answers what you asked me to do. It's the best I personally could do, and I hope it shows you. But again, just go to Tinkercad and experiment with your own design. Go to Thingiverse and find a design you like. Download them. They will be STL files. You need a slicer. I showed you how to use Ultimaker Cura. And again, the key is once you say, yeah, I like that, boom. Now again, you can open one file at a time or multiple files and print multiple things at a time. But they will always tell you how long it's going to take to print based on the printer you've installed. So if you don't have a 3D printer, just pick one and use that as your base, because you can't render a G code unless you tell it which printer you're going to print it on. So when you go to Cura, do that. So I hope that helps. So to everybody who's watching this video, I want to say Auf Wiedersehen, Tschüss, and happy trains. Again, this was a request video, and I'm trying to do it quick and simple. Take care, everybody.